I am Steve Shapiro, as it should say right below me there. And today we're going to talk about a topic which is very important to me, which is how do we solve difficult problems during these difficult times? And I'll link all of this back to the freedom-centered design principles. I will talk about how you actually apply the technique. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background, a few stories, and then we'll close with a tool that you can all download and use to solve your most difficult problems. So with that, let's just dive right into the content. And to do that, I want to take you back a little bit. Back in 1977, Citibank decided that they were going to install ATM machines, cash machines, in all of their banks across New York City. And you would think on the surface that this would be an awesome thing. People would want it. It's convenient. It's great technology. But it was interesting, in 1977, which was the year they first started to introduce them, the front page of the New York Times basically said that people were leaving Citibank because of their concerns around the technology. They were concerned that, first of all, they were going to get rid of the tellers. They were concerned that hard to learn the machines. They were concerned that they'd stick their card in and they would get the wrong amount of cash back. So what ended up happening was it looked like the whole concept of the cash machine, the ATM machine, would be dead in the water. Now, for those of you who are my age and are originally from the northeastern United States, you will know what happened in 1978. So just less than a year after this article came out, there was a blizzard. There was a blizzard that took place in 1978. I'm from Boston, and in Boston we had 4 feet of snow. We had 4 feet of snow at that point. In New York City, there were 2 feet of snow. You can see there were 15-foot drifts. And so the entire city was like totally shut down. People couldn't get money. Now, the bank was the primary place to get money at the time. Well, supermarkets were the backup, but the supermarkets were running out of money very quickly. The only place to get cash were the cash machines, the ATM machines. In fact, I've seen pictures of people working for Citibank who had bags of money strapped to their back, and they're on skis going through the streets of New York City to make sure that all of the ATM machines are filled up. So why do I use this example? I use this example because I think it's a great representation of what's going on right now, because back in 1978, that blizzard caused adoption. And in fact, during the blizzard, just the short weeks of the blizzard, the use of ATM machines went up 20% from what they were before. And over the course of just 3 years, Citibank doubled their market share in New York City, largely because of the ATM machine. So that's what happened back in the 70s. And the same thing is pretty much happening right now. If we look at the market cap of a number of stocks, and we'll look at Zoom and the major airlines. And I took a snapshot of what they were back in January of this year. So just a matter of months ago, Zoom had a market cap of about $16 billion, and the major airlines had a combined total of $74 billion. So the airlines, obviously much, much, much larger than Zoom. But then just a few months later, this was as of May, Zoom's market cap was about $50 billion, where the airlines were now down to $25 billion. Basically, Zoom's market cap tripled, while the airlines were cut in a third. That's almost a 10-fold improvement in market cap for Zoom. So this is what has happened. And why is this happening? Well, anytime we are trying to solve problems, there's always a default problem that we think we're trying to solve. And in the situation having to do with nobody being able to meet in person, the default problem was how can we replicate in the virtual environment what we've done in person? So we were supposed to be in Boulder right now, couldn't do that. So everybody decided to get together on Zoom. And that is the natural reaction. How do we replicate, automate, repeat what we planned on doing previously, but doing it in a new environment? Now, here's what I believe. I believe that there are 2 phases in a time of crisis like this when it comes to problem solving. The first phase is what I call reactive adoption. And this is basically where we try to replicate what we were trying to do before and automate it. Basically, take our in-person events and do them on Zoom. And this is coming from a survival perspective. We need to change. We need to adapt, because if we don't, we're going to be irrelevant. Phase 2, though, is what I want to talk about, which is where we actually stop pause and focus on some proactive innovation. Actually start thinking about where could we go? Instead of just replicating what we've been doing, let's question everything that we have and rethink it as a way of helping us thrive. So if we were to look at this through the lens of the current situation and meetings, well, maybe one of the questions we want to focus on is how do we take full advantage of all virtual options? Because Zoom is just one virtual option, but there's many, and there's things we can do virtually that we can't do physically. For example, how could we leverage asynchronous content? When I do a lot of my events with clients, we'll send videos before and after an event. This way you can watch the video rather than having to be glued to your computer. You can watch the recorded portion so that we can use our live time to be more collaborative. Or we could just eliminate unnecessary meetings or eliminate the unnecessary aspects of many meetings. But the key is we can start rethinking what we do, and it doesn't mean that everything we're focused on right now ends when we're able to meet in person, because hopefully, as we're redesigning our thoughts around the virtual world, we're keeping in mind the long term, saying, well, how could we use all of this great new technology and tools that are being developed? How could we use these in real life once we're back in person? So the questions we ask have a profound impact on the range of solutions that are available to us. And in fact, my belief is that the questions we ask impact what is visible. We tend to ask questions that are based on our past experiences and our past beliefs, and we need to start shifting our questions a little bit to help us ask better questions, because those better questions will lead to better solutions. And I just want to give you a couple of stories here that demonstrate how shifting the question can shift the solutions you get. I will then talk about the tool that you can download and use to do exactly what I'm talking about here. And then we'll close with a couple of quick stories that really pull it all together. So the first story I want to tell is one that hopefully all of us can relate to, because hopefully all of us brush our teeth. If you go to the supermarket and you look at the toothpaste section of pretty much every single supermarket and drugstore, you will notice that all toothpaste, pretty much all of them, claim to whiten teeth. They claim to whiten teeth. And the way that they do this is with a mild abrasive or a mild bleach. So there were a team of dental experts in the UK who wanted to solve a different problem. They wanted to solve the problem, how can we, the dental experts, create a whitening toothpaste that doesn't use abrasives and doesn't use bleach? So how could we do the same result, but with a different method? And they spent a lot of money on complex chemical compounds and more formulas. And eventually they realized they weren't getting anywhere fast until someone asked a really important question. And this is a question I would like you to consider anytime you are stuck and can't find a solution. The question I'd like you to ask is two words. Who else? Who else? Who else has solved a similar problem? So in this case, they asked the question, who else makes whites whiter without using bleach? Who else makes whites whiter without using bleach? I'm just curious, in the chat, what do you think could be a possible place to look for solutions? Who else makes whites whiter when you're not using bleach? I know now you got to get back to your keyboards and start typing. Tide or other detergents, fantastic. Thank you, Kevin. Paints is awesome. Yep, really good. OxyClean, Persil or Persil, laundry detergents, you got it. That is the answer. As it turns out, the company that was working on this problem, Unilever, in addition to having a dental care division, also had a laundry care division. And as it turns out, in the history of the company, the two divisions never spoke to each other. They thought this would be a good time. So the people from dental care, they walked over and they asked the people in laundry care, when you're not using bleach, how do you make whites whiter? And they were told something fascinating. They were told, we don't. We don't. We make whites bluer. Laundry detergent is blue for a reason. The blue dye creates an optical illusion, an optical effect that prevents the reflection of yellow. Your clothes are still dingy yellow. You just can't see it. And they thought this was a very cool idea. So what they did was they went off and they created a toothpaste that has in it a blue dye. And this blue dye creates the optical illusion, an optical effect that prevents the reflection of yellow. And it will do it instantly. It doesn't take days, weeks, or months, and it works for several hours. Now, I use this example because not this is the greatest toothpaste in the world. I'm not saying that you want to go out and buy this toothpaste necessarily, but it is the greatest innovation thought process. It is the greatest innovation thought process because whatever problem you're working on, the odds are someone else has solved a similar problem, just potentially in a different place. So it shows you how changing the question from how do we, the experts in dental care, solve this problem to who else has already solved the problem leads us to a different solution. Let me just give you one more example. I love this one. I miss the fact that we can't fly anymore, but just imagine the last time that you were flying. Because the carry-on allotments are so small, you have to check your bags. And what happens when you get off the airplane and you get to baggage claim? You sit there and you wait. And it is torture for many people, because if you get off the plane and you are flying for several hours and you have to wait at baggage claim, it is just, you just want to get home. You want to get to the hotel, wherever you're going. And so one of the airports was looking at this, and when they asked the passengers what their biggest complaint was, it was all about the speed of the bags. It took too long. So they did some analysis and they found that at this airport, it took on average 15 to 20 minutes for the bags to get from the plane to the baggage carousel. 15 to 20 minutes to get from the plane to the baggage carousel. So they decided to solve the problem. How can we speed up the bags? How can we speed up the bags? And they spent a ton of money on faster conveyor belts, more baggage handlers, newer technology. They got it from 15 to 20 minutes down to 8 to 10 minutes. Whew, fantastic. You would think that they're going to be popping champagne. They're going to be celebrating because they cut the wait time down in half. And then they asked the passengers, what now is your biggest complaint? And everybody still felt it was baggage claim. Took too long. Now you know how this works. There's a point of diminishing returns in any investment. If it took them that much time, money, or energy to get it down to 8 minutes, to get it to 7 minutes, 6 minutes, or 5 minutes would be prohibitively expensive. And then they had an epiphany. They realized that it took the bags 8 to 10 minutes to get from the plane to the baggage carousel, but at this particular airport, it only took the passengers 1 to 3 minutes to get from the plane to the baggage carousel. So instead of speeding up the bags, what do you think they did? You guessed it, they slowed down the passengers. They slowed down the passengers. They literally reconfigured the airport so that it would take, on average, 8 to 10 minutes for the passengers to walk from the plane to the baggage carousel. They get to the baggage carousel, their bags are waiting, they are happy. So what was going on here? What was going on here? Well, they were originally solving the problem, how can we speed up the bags, when in fact, maybe the broader, bigger question was, how can we reduce wait time? How can we reduce wait time? Now, if you think about it, wait time and the speed of the bags sound the same, but they aren't. Because the wait time is made up of the speed of the bags and the speed of the passengers. And here's the point. If you spend all of your time trying to speed up bags, you will probably never think to slow down the passengers. The questions we ask have a profound impact on the range of solutions we will develop. Now we can take this a step further. We can change one word in the question. How can we reduce the wait time? Change one word. I just want to show you the power of language. How can we reduce wait time to how can we improve wait time? How can we improve the wait experience? Well, now we're not thinking about airports because the experience is terrible there. Who has some of the best wait experiences? I'm speaking to you from Orlando, Florida. Universal Studios just opened up last week. Well, this is a ride in Universal Studios that has, to me, the ultimate wait experience. There's no lines. You walk in, it is a mock of Rockefeller Center. This is a great opportunity to see all the different NBC shows, the different Tonight shows. This is Johnny Carson. He was probably my favorite of the Tonight Show hosts. You get a chance to play games. You get a chance to sit on sofas and have conversations with panda bears if that's your thing. You can charge your phone, and you can also watch entertainment. So this is a great example of how changing the wait experience, once you change that question of how do we improve the wait experience, it now opens up new places, new avenues for us to start looking at that go beyond what we might have normally looked at. Changing the question has a huge, huge impact on the range of solutions we develop. So we talked about 4 quick variations of one quick problem. How do we speed up the bags to how do we slow down the passengers? How can we reduce the wait time to how can we improve the wait time or the wait experience? But we can keep on going further with this. So for example, people say to me, hey, Steve, when you tell us that you're going to slow the passengers down, I check my bag. I don't check my bags. I actually do carry-on luggage. So you're slowing me down too. What if you change the problem to how can we slow down the passengers only with checked bags? Well, now maybe it's not reconfiguring the airport, but what if we were to reconfigure the plane? What if we had the passengers with checked bags in the back of the plane? And this way it's slower for them to get off the plane, whereas the people who don't have checked bags can get off quickly. Or maybe what we will start thinking about is how can we learn from another place? Like how could we make the wait seem shorter? Now, we go to baggage claim, we wait for our bags, and then what's the next thing we tend to do? Well, the next thing we tend to do as soon as we have our bags is we get our phone and we order an Uber or order a Lyft. Well, what happens when you order an Uber and a Lyft? Well, you see everybody staring at their phones. And what they're doing is looking at that car move towards you. But what if instead of a car, it was actually a bag? What if that bag was moving towards you and you could actually see where your luggage is going? Well, this is a great way to distract you. And the point is the questions we ask have a profound impact on the range of solutions we can develop. I love this quote that's attributed to Einstein. He reputedly said, if I had an hour to save the world, I would spend 59 minutes defining the problem, 1 minute finding solutions. 59 minutes defining the problem, 1 minute finding solutions. From my experience, most individuals, most teams, most organizations are spending 60 minutes solving problems that are irrelevant or that aren't well framed. So I want to give you a tool that you can use to help you rethink your problems. And I call these my 25 lenses. And these 25 lenses are in my book, but you can download them for free. I'll give you the URL in a little bit. But let me just share with you how they're organized. So you can see, for example, there are 5 different categories for the lenses. So there's 25 of them that are broken down into different groups. So for example, you have some that are about reducing abstraction. If I have really big, broad questions, for example, how do I improve margins, which might be a big problem? Well, I can break it down into something smaller. Or maybe I have something too specific and I make it less so. So there's 25 in total that you can use to reframe problems. And let me show you how these were used in the examples that I just talked about, and then we'll close with a quick story. So the analogy lens, which is number 6, which is under the increase abstraction, was the toothpaste example. Who else has solved a similar problem like this? What is it like? Because if you are so specific in that you assume the problem is going to be solved by dental experts, we need to raise it up a little bit, make it a little higher level to find better solutions. Or the baggage claim is so many different examples. For example, the flip lens. Instead of solving for one problem, what if we solve for something else? What if instead of speeding up the bags, we slow down the passengers? Actually change the parameter that we're solving. Or we also could substitute words. Actually change 1 or 2 words. How can we reduce wait time? Changes to how can we improve wait time? But there's also other ones. For example, up here is the variations lens. Instead of having everybody have to wait, instead of having everybody walk longer, the variations lens says, well, what if we created different solutions for different people? What if we had one solution for people who checked bags and a different solution for people who didn't check bags? So this, to me, I just want to get you thinking that whatever question you think you're trying to solve, there's probably a different and better solution out there because you need to change the question. And then if we go back to the very beginning, this is the pain versus gain lens. This is where we started. This is the ATM machine. You know, people typically will take action to do something to minimize their loss or to reduce or eliminate a pain. So if you can take what you are working on and shift it so that you're the aspirin for someone else's pain, they may be likely to take more action than they would otherwise. So with that, what we'll do is we're going to jump to one last example here as we're running to the point where we need to get to Q&A. I don't know if you're into Formula One, but Formula One is one of my favorite passions, because I actually worked for a Formula One race car team for a number of years. That was an example of a pit stop. Let me just go back, because I think some of you may have missed that for a moment. So we're going to go back. Now watch this carefully. The car is going to come in, and when it comes in, boom, tires are off, tires are on. It is gone in 1.92 seconds. So this is, so I worked for a Formula One team for 3 years when I lived in England, and I was just so blown away by it. I remember having a conversation with one of the guys that I worked with, and I asked him, I said, hey, how do they do that? And he said, we do it the way you would expect we do it. We tell people to go fast. We sit there with a stopwatch. Back when I worked with them, which is about 20 years ago, there were 19 guys around a car who would fuel the car, back when they did fueling of the cars, changing the tires, doing minor maintenance to the car. And they would sit there with a stopwatch, and they would do it over and over and over, hundreds of times. And they get to a point where no matter what they did, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't go 1/1000th of a second faster. It was their best time. They decided to use different tactics and techniques to see if they could get people to go faster. Offered them more money. Didn't work. And then they stumbled across something interesting, which was they told the pit crew members, you are not going to be timed. You're going to be evaluated on your style. So as you're changing the tires, think smooth. As you're fueling the car, think smooth. As you're doing the maintenance on the car, think smooth. Go fast, but be smooth. Think about your movements. Don't just focus on the speed. And what I was told is that when they focused on their smoothness, their style, of course they were being timed, they shaved 0.2 to 0.3 of a second off of what was their best previous time. And when they asked the pit crew members if they thought they were going faster or slower, everyone on the pit crew thought they were going slower. I call this the performance paradox, which is also one of the lenses. The performance paradox basically says that sometimes the more you focus on a goal, the less likely you are to achieve that goal. Because we take our eye off the present. We take our eye off what we need to do right now. We get so enamored with the future that we lose sight of the actions we can take in this moment. And when it comes time to finding better solutions, there's a variation of the performance paradox I call the solution paradox, which is the more you focus on finding solutions, the less likely you are to find a solution. Instead, what you want to do is step back, pause, reflect, and make sure you are asking the right questions. Because if you're going quickly in the wrong direction, you're just going further away from the ultimate goal. So let's make sure we're asking better questions, and you can download this tool in order to help you ask those better questions. So you can see here, invisiblesolutionsresources.com. You will get the 25 lenses. There's also a template where you can type everything in if you want. There's also a bunch of videos that you get to watch. So Invisible Solutions Resources is the place to get all of that. And I just want to close with some last thoughts here as how all of this relates to everything that you've been experiencing so far during the summit. And the first thing is to recognize that when we think about a leader, and this is so aligned with everything I've heard previously in this summit, leaders are not the ones who are supposed to have the answers. In fact, when a leader feels as though they have all the answers, that to me is the sign of an organization's demise. To me, the role of a good leader is to ask questions that get everyone else inside the organization to ask better questions. Because when you have an organization where everyone never assumes that you're moving in the right direction, and everyone doesn't assume that there's one person with the answer, because nobody has all the answers, but we could have people looking for better questions. That to me is the key. You know, we've always said, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. But from my perspective, I actually want, instead of solutions, I want better problems, well-framed problems, important problems, problems that are really going to make a huge difference. And so to me, this is really the key, is as you know, freedom-centered leadership and freedom-centered organizations, to me, it's all about questioning. It's like making sure we're focused in the right direction. If we're moving with speed, we're moving with speed in the right direction, because that to me is the ultimate goal.